G'day guys, Simon and Ben here, or Ben and Simon here, sorry. Welcome to another episode of the Pumps on Property Show. A little bit like mum there, hey? Getting both of our names mixed up. I've been doing it with my kids as well in the last few days, and I'm like, what's going on? You're getting old, mate. I think you're late 30s now. Hitting my like grey years or something. I don't know. Twilight years. I'm a third of the way through my life. Yeah, twilight for some. How's things going though, man? Like you've obviously, been doing a fair bit of stuff recently to start the beginning of the year. How's things feeling energetically? Oh man, like pretty good, hey. I've got to say, like I've got this little morning routine in place at the moment. I'm sorry guys, we do get to property, but we always talk just, I don't know, health. Yeah. But yeah, I've got this little morning routine wired of like bit of breathing, hot cup of tea, like ginger, honey, lemon, which is making me feel good. Little bit of gratitude or prayer, and then a bit of movement. And for some reason, for that reason, I feel like my days are starting better. I'm seeing this dude about diet as well, like an Indian sort of guy. And he's like, just set your alarm at the same time every day for 3 weeks. And it's just like, it's not just making me go to bed earlier, but my body's getting used to it. Yeah. I'm like starting to love it, hey? Yeah, that's so good, man. Like I've been implementing my morning routine all the time at the moment, which is making me feel good more often than not. But as I was just saying off camera, like, this week, just a little bit of those old fears and emotions come up for no reason. So it's funny how you can still do all of those positive things for yourself, morning routine, good habits, training, sleeping well, all of that, but you can still feel a little bit off. And it's just the journey of being a little bit of a human being as well. Oh man, like don't get me wrong, like I'm actually feeling like a tiny bit of anxiety in my chest right now, but I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to do the diaphragm, 5 breaths in, 5 breaths out, get my heart rate back down. Like these things happen. We're people. Exactly. We're high performance people. We've got a whole lot of shit in life that we love doing. But nah, man, like the acceptance, like I've been doing a lot of work at the moment on my mind and body, and just what you said, like just I'm accepting that these old thoughts, these old emotions aren't me. And they're just a hangover from who I've chose to be for the 37 years before this point. So yeah, there's so many helpful chemicals, chemical reactions occurring within the body as well. Sometimes you just don't have control of them as well. But we did that breath enhancement training course down on the Gold Coast recently, which was just an absolute game changer for the both of us to actually learn how to breathe. And the funny thing is, like when you breathe up here through the chest, it actually creates a far bigger stress response in the body from those nerves firing and then, indicating I'm in a stressful environment. I need to fight or fly my way out of here, rather than just sort of breathing into the bottom of your belly. And, that actually hits nerves that release a more calming response. And that was a beautiful thing to sort of recognize, which is stuff that you already intuitively know as a human being. Like it all begins and ends with the breath. Yeah. But to just breathe properly can completely change your mind state in such a quick minute. For me, another big thing that's happened from like the financial side of my life is after that trip to Bali last year in September with the family, I really, really sat down over there and I went like, what is my vision for my life? Like, what are my values? And then how do I like live that, or how do I express that on a weekly, monthly basis? And I realized that at the time I actually owned more property than I needed to achieve my financial goal. So last year was a huge year for me, like knowing that interest rate rises were coming. I went interest only on all of my home loans personally. And now, go talk to your advisors about the pros and cons of doing that. There's a massive negative to that, and that is I'll pay a shitload more interest on my properties over the longer term, but it gives me massive cash flow consistency week to week. So just doing that across so many properties was a punish. What will your strategy be with that if the interest rates start to decline? Will you maybe switch back or? I'm planning on just staying interest only now for the rest of this cycle. Okay, cool. I'll probably personally stay interest only for the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah. That doesn't mean I'm not paying off debt. Like I want people to be really clear. I'm just offsetting my money instead of paying it off the home loan because I'm concerned that the banks might not want to give it to me in different periods over the next 7 years. And so I want to stack the cash so that I can access the cash.
Yeah.
I'm still paying off the home loan at the exact same rate. I'm just putting it in offset.
Okay, cool. Nice. You know, my sort of thought process has changed a little bit recently as well, because doing some research up here on the Sunshine Coast where I live, I can see that properties in high quality locations compared to where I am have dropped far more than where I am. And there's a very small transfer fee for me to go to a high quality location, maybe lower quality house. So I'm just playing with some ideas there, potentially looking at, offloading one to get into a high quality location and get into another project, because Tay and I have been super fortunate to manufacture a heap of value through our property. I'll give it to the market. The market did 99% of the heavy lifting there.
It made it beautiful and really, really nice for like people in mine or your stage of life, like looking to move into a move-in ready home that you've got. It's really nice now.
Yeah, and I think the whole reason for that change was just like strategically discussing like how to become a successful property investor. And while there's no real secrets, like one of the things that's enabled you to get into your beautiful dream home at such an early phase in your life with lower debt levels has been this transition where you buy low, add value, sell, and then, move on until you can get into the dream home, which is obviously what everybody's long-term life goals are. So I've just sort of taken stock of that and just starting to look at some different ideas. And, why I wanted to mention that is just the reality is the only thing is change.
Yeah.
Like things change so bloody quickly, energetically, emotionally, from a values perspective, market conditions, and you just got to be willing to adapt to those changes.
Yeah, like, there's seasons in life, and sometimes the season is hot at summer, and, you're squirreling, which is sort of like what, to be honest, I've been doing for a couple of years now. And then sometimes it's just winter and it's like chill and just enjoy yourself and rest, recover, relax. So I think the time in the market right now, if it was a season, is like absolute the beginning of spring, but everyone thinks we're in like a deep like winter. Like what, winter's coming? What was that show? Like
Game of Thrones.
It feels like, oh my gosh, winter's coming.
The White Walkers of the major media outlets.
Seriously. I suppose for me personally, to like finish on what I did after Bali, like I went interest only on everything. I've set up an offset account against everything, and then I've also sold a couple of the properties, which I'll pay a shitload of tax on in the next year or two, but I'll have some cash left over after paying the debt, and that is breathe easy money. It's also like, hey, the market's at a bit of a bottom right now. It might give me a chance if I want to do something again, money as well.
Yeah, exactly, because we are seeing a lot of deals come across the table, a lot of unicorn deals coming across the table, especially, Sunshine Coast and Brisbane, property selling above the $1 million mark. It's just, they've really come off the boil, maybe 10, 15% over the last 6 to 12 months. So there is some really good buying opportunities, and, they don't come around very often. They come around once every few years at best.
This is the biggest recorded drop in Australian property prices since CoreLogic started grabbing the data. So if you're a dip buyer, we're past the bottom. Like, I'm just going to say that now, like the bottom was December, and people will see that soon. But, there's still an incredible opportunity to get $1 million place for $900K or a $600K place for $530. So there's big discounts on offer, which will be fully realised in the next couple of years, I believe, as long as we can get inflation under control.
And I think the market is already pricing in what the data is starting to show, because the December quarter data came out from APRA, which indicated that 99% of Australian mortgage holders made their repayments on time. And you mentioned that, I can't remember who indicated, but there was like over $1.4 billion worth of savings in Australian redraw and offset accounts at the moment as well. So huge buffers sitting there for a lot of people.
Why I don't believe we're all in at this stage of our real estate cycle is most of you listening to this have equity and cash still. And a lot of Australians do. Like, we talk to more than 1,000 investors a year, either previous clients, new people that have reached out to learn more about the market, or actual clients that we're working with right now. And there's a lot of people, you'd be surprised, like, are doing well.
Yeah.
They've been saving literally since the last GFC.
that are like waiting for the Australian stock market to fucking get into an all-time high, or for the American to bottom out, or for property markets like Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth to finally do something meaningful for the first time in 12 years. Like, there's a lot of cash waiting for an opportunity, and most of that cash will come in at the same time when everybody feels good again. And that will be when interest rates have either sat flat for 3 to 5 months, or we see the first decline in interest rates, which CBA is expecting before the end of the year.
And, with this world that we live in where it's just so easy to gain access to the information, at the click of a finger. So it naturally makes sense that we're going to see, bigger booms, bigger busts, short term, everybody jumping in at the same time, everybody getting out at the same time, which is going to make it probably more difficult for people to actually time it. But it's just a reality because everything is happening in real time at the moment.
100%, and everyone's verbal with it. Like, I heard something recently and I don't know how I feel about it, but in the olden days, to be in TV and media, you generally had to be like an academic, a successful sports or business person, and sort of like that section of society that had done something. But now 100% of us, including myself,
it is us.
I have a voice and I'm using it and I'm saying things that I want to say, and some people hate that and some people are vibing on it. But, there's a lot of voices out there at the moment that as soon as things get scary, jump on that. I knew it. I talked to this client last week and he's like, I've actually predicted the last 3 downturns and none of them came. I've been predicting downturns since the last GFC for 10 years.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just over it, which is why he finally engaged us. He's like, I need to do something because I've missed 100% growth in Melbourne, 100% growth in Sydney, Geelong, Mornington Peninsula, Wollongong, Newcastle, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast. It's like, how long are you going to put the decision to set up yourself financially on hold, which is,
I hear it every day.
This is about.
Yeah, I hear that every day. And like the amount of people right now that are trying to time the market and pick the true bottom is insane. And
you missed it, guys. It was December 2022.
Exactly. And like one of the secrets I believe to property investing is time in the market over timing the market.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, all of these big time, long-term experienced investors all say like, if you can buy the dips, but also hold for the long term and just get into quality assets.
100%. I bought a few dips and I've bought the absolute top, and every single property that I own has still gone up by like 20 to 40% in the last 3 years in the right suburb. So it's like, actually not all of them. One of them I'm $200,000 lost on right now on the Sunshine Coast. Speaking of like buying at the top, expensive properties, like I've taken a bath. I don't care because it's a 30-year investment. What does 100 or 200K at the moment mean over that period of time? It wouldn't matter if I was forced to sell it, but I'm not forced to sell it and the rent return's good.
Having that belief system that Sunshine Coast is a good location, long-term, it's expected to have significant population growth. There's a massive infrastructure boom occurring up here. We've got high income earners. It doesn't matter those short-term bumps and bruises because that's just going to happen while you hold the property.
And I look at history, and 7 years ago, I could buy in the Gold Coast on the beach side of the highway for 50K more than the Sunshine Coast, and now the difference is $1 million.
Yeah.
And it's like, what changed? A hospital got built. Well, we just finished the hospital on the coast. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing, the heavy rail went in and then the light rail went in. Mm-hmm. Both of those are coming into the coast before the Olympics.
Yeah, can't wait to see those projects come to light as well.
When are they going to break soil? 200 years from now, probably.
So tell me, what are the secrets to property investing? Surely you know them.
I don't know shit, man. I'm just constantly learning and figuring stuff out. But I have a whole lot of like war stories and lessons that I've learned the hard way.
Yeah.
So the secret to, and Oprah said this the other day in something we shared, if you guys aren't following our Instagram and you want like shorter format, just little snippets of gold, the concept behind our Instagram and Facebook pages is if you watch 30 seconds of our stuff a day, by the end of the year, you'll be a completely educated investor. So it's very different to this. But Oprah was sitting there with someone that, you know, the guy's like, you've interviewed thousands of rich people. What's the secret? And she's like, she went to say something and then stopped. And she's like, actually, they just know what they want.
Yeah.
So
say that.
You know, vision. And then my second one is a plan. Decide the life that you want lofty as. create the life that you want with a plan after that.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And then my last point is like consistently take action.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. Like I know what my vision is. It's to work 4 days or less per week, to take 8 weeks off or more per year, to be an incredible dad, absolute number one, to be healthy and well throughout my life, to have an incredible spiritual relationship with my source, like to be a good friend, to do fun shit. Like I love caravanning, I love holidaying, like I love surfing, and to just have like a simpler life than the one that I've had in the last 10 years, which was filled with so much turbulence because I thought you had to sacrifice everything to get to where you want to be. And now I realize you can just have the best time and you'll still get there. So just enjoy it.
I love that so much, man. And it's funny, like I was feeling a little bit off, and what I did yesterday is I looked into, because I have on my computer just a notes page, which is all of it has my values, it has challenging questions that I should ask myself if I'm in a anxious or a stressed out state. It has my 3 rules for life. It has my, all of the different values that I follow, but then it also has my goals, and I've got them split up into, 20, I normally do short term, 1 to 3 years. Then I'll sort of do medium, 3 to 10 year goals. And then I'll sort of do long-term goals. And, just to have that plan, it's like, well, this is the vision. This is the lifestyle that I'm working toward attaining. And I'm willing to go to bat for it and do what needs to be done short term. And
that's why you're feeling a bit off. Cause like sometimes when I look at my goals so specifically, it actually creates monster overwhelm in me.
Yeah, like
I've got so much of a journey and pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that was one of the catalysts to do it, but it actually, it's double-edged sword, right? It's like you get nervous. It's pulling and pushing, and like I am really excited, and I want to make all of those dreams reality, but it's not too much, like similar to yours. Like I want to have my own home walking distance to the beach owned completely outright. I want to have a couple of investment properties owned completely outright that are producing a 6-figure passive income. That's going to take me another 10, maybe 15 years to make happen. But then I just want to go on an overseas surf trip, an overseas snow trip. I want to hang out with friends and family. I want to just enjoy life. For me, like one of the cool goals is like getting that piece of land as well. I had my wedding out on the Sunshine Coast hinterland, and we're driving out there. It's just like, we need to make this happen. We need to buy something out there, because I've talked about in other podcasts, my obsession with surfing and the ocean is everything that I need. But at the same time, it's such a fluid environment. It's constantly changing, and you just never have that peace, that solace. But out in the mountains, everything is just so still and quiet, and like the mountains, the trees, it's just so beautiful out there. And I need to have that balance where I'm in this like turbulent influx environment and then have this just stillness as well.
It's interesting because I was rewatching the Yin and Yang of Jerry Lopez, incredible documentary, just to get people stoked on. But he talks about the mountains being yang, like masculine, and the ocean actually being fluid and yin. And it's like, for me personally, I feel really good in the mountains, but I think my dominant state is like yang. And for me at the moment, with like the rest recovery that I'm looking for, like being in the ocean, being more like fluid is actually softer for me.
Right.
I feel like I'm like the reverse of where you are.
Yeah.
But maybe that's because I'm also living in the bush.
I'm probably more yin at heart as well.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It's like you're craving like the completion of yourself through nature.
When I was in Canada and America at the end of last year and the start of this year for the honeymoon, I completely agree with that sentiment, because you're on the chairlifts looking up at these like mountains. I'm talking mountains, and they're so intimidating. They're so overwhelmingly powerful and so beautiful at the same time. But I can totally get the fact like they're brutal. Like the ocean is a lot more gentle at times compared to the mountains.
Wasn't it Shipstones last year or whatever? It's not Shipstones, Shipwrecks, but yeah, I feel you. It was this morning.
It was this morning.
That's why I'm going to breathwork courses. So when I get my next 5-second hold down, I'm not screaming.
That's like
literally what it is.
Yeah.
So vision is number one. Plan is number two. I literally have always, I did this training when I was at uni. I got selected as this part of this, like a dude from MIT in America and a dude from Harvard came across, and like they picked kids from all over the world, and we got to like do this young entrepreneurs course. It was so sick. And they did this exercise where instead of like goal setting forward, you identify what you want. For me, it's 200 grand a year passive income, and you reverse engineer it back to what you need, because it's a lot easier to go, I need 200K. Well, what is that really? It's 4 properties that rent for $1,000 a week. Sweet. 4 properties. I'm at step 1. Well, there's only one thing to do. Figure out if you can buy, and then buy that first property.
Yeah.
And get that bedded down, and then move on to the second step. So that was really helpful to get that at 23 years of age, to go, oh, this is the way you plan backwards.
Yeah, and it's a smarter way to do it, and it seems to be the recipe of success. You look at people like Dave and other investors that have gone for more long-term first, and then it ends up happening where you see a lot of people that chase those short-term returns. They end up constantly chasing those short-term returns, and that means work. I mean, I think a lot. I reckon the majority of people set their strategy going for short term first. I want to flip properties. I want to develop properties. I want to do knock down rebuild.
I want to skip the hard work and just get the money.
Exactly. But I like the other model, because my whole idea there is the fact that you go for long term first. You focus on the fundamentals. You build your team of advisors, you get some experience taking some action, and you build your skill set so that once you've bought, 2 or 3 properties, then you're in a much more educated position to then start trying to do those short-term projects, because they're super risky.
I love that, man. And honestly, I wish I was like that when I was started. I was a fucking idiot. You do that money now. I was like, I'm going to be financially free. I'm going to make this 100K on this deal and that deal.
Jerry Maguire, show me the money.
Man, I just didn't look like him, and I didn't have any socks. But I was like,
I bet Lisa wishes though you look like Jerry Maguire.
100%. Actually, she hasn't liked Tom Cruise. She's more like a Leonardo and Pitt kind. Even worse.
Even worse. Look, for me, I find like I'm not a guy that likes to think hypothetically. Like I do, but I don't. But what I'm trying to get at there is rather than trying to just figure it out on the way, just get educated. Yeah. Get educated is what I'm getting at there, so that you actually understand the fundamentals. You actually understand the history. And, I feel like I'm flogging a dead horse talking about these resources and books again, but like, if you haven't done it, and the reason I bring them up is because I constantly have strategy sessions where I'm asking people, have you read these books? Have you subscribed to these emails yet? And no is the common answer. And like Rich Dad Poor Dad, best book to understand the differences between assets and liabilities and why you should invest instead of work.
You're just getting started, then that's the book.
Absolutely. And same as like mastering the Australian housing market, if you're at the beginning of your journey, then as you start to get a little bit further along, you can level up and go for books like The Secret Life of Real Estate and Banking and The Power in the Land. But then you can actually follow those data resources like CoreLogic, RP Data, SQM, that are actually analyzing the data in the Australian property market. Because then when you get all this noise of opinions, perspectives, which are flooding the market, as you said earlier, like every man and his dog has a YouTube channel, a TikTok page, an Instagram page where they're promoting and educating and doing that. We're doing the same thing, but it's hard to figure it out for yourself. So rather than trying to just follow the data and learn to understand what that actually means. So for me, getting educated has been the biggest catalyst to figuring out what I should do and when.
I love that so much, man. And it's the truth. Like those books each completely changed the course. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he said invest. And I didn't think I'd ever start a business at that time. Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to invest my way out of my job.
Yeah.
And then I read Mastering the Australian Housing Market, and I believed in property, that when I saw 100 years of data and I learned that it did 11% per year, I'm like, on leverage, cool. Like what did the American stock market do in the same period of time? What has the ASX done in Australia? What have European and Asian markets done? Nothing compared to that with leverage. Nothing close. And then I go, well, what was The Secret Life of Real Estate and Banking? I was obsessively looking for a method to my madness. I'm like, there has to be a pattern in this. It can't just be buy and hope. which is what honestly everyone was doing.
And it's worked. That's why everyone does it.
And it's like, cool, there's a pattern in the global cycle that's led by America, then the UK, then us. And then within Australia, there's a pattern to how Sydney and Melbourne perform versus Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth. And understanding when to buy in those places and being confident with that decision and when to exit them and move on to something that's better for you. Incredible, like incredibly powerful resources.
And as it becomes more popular for people to invest through real estate investment trusts, and as these big companies, big institutional investors start getting into the market, it's going to be harder and harder for you to be on the winning side, because these guys are going to control the market like they do with the stock market. The big hedge funds control, and they're the ones that make 95% of the money there. And what's happening with real estate, we've had 70% owner occupiers, 30% investors consistently. But now people are realizing that the power of leverage is insanely powerful to replace a passive income, to become financially free. And, as people realize that all those economic gains in society end up back in the land values, we'll see bigger burns, we'll see bigger busts. It'll get more difficult to start timing. So you need to be educated so you can obviously be on the side of the equation that hopefully wins.
100%, bro. Like the more people that get educated, the more the game adapts to that education, right?
Exactly.
But, people have been saying this for hundreds of years as well. And so, I always come back to Phil's quote at the very start of The Secret Life. And it's like, there is nothing new under the sun. Everything that has been will be again. And it is true until we get as a species, as humans, out of our survival brain as the key place that 90% of the population in the world lives in, into absolute consciousness and presence. People are going to keep doing dumbass shit. They're going to sell when it's scary and they're going to buy when it's bubbly. And that's because people want to run away from fear and they want to buy the hype and they want to reaffirm their decision.
And that's the same with just mindset, understanding, how we operate, because the same concepts that are talked about today and that are valued today were talked about with the ancient Sumerians, the Roman Empire, obviously Christianity as it started to become super popular, all the way through history. You've constantly got these people talking about the exact same concepts in a different way. And, this is because we are human beings. We're flawed human beings that experience these emotions and we experience all of these different feelings. And what we're trying to do is just figure it out and continue the path and continue working towards becoming a better version of ourselves and maybe try and figure it out.
100%. Which leads me into success leaves clues is one of the best pieces of advice I've ever got. And the second one was stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yep.
It's why do you have to do what I did and try and figure out every single step of this journey on your own? When I realized that nobody gets successful on their own, that's when I really set up my team of advisors. And we've talked in heaps of other stuff around who they should be. There's about 10 people that I think you should need. You can either slowly go and find them over 13 years like I have and get a shitload of the wrong ones at the start, or you can partner with someone like us that already has those people and we can introduce you to all of them immediately. But talking to people that have been there and done that, and then surrounding yourself with a team of specialist advisors that actually aren't just doing it for a job, but are obsessed with it, and on top of that are investors themselves, will exponentially speed up this process towards financial freedom.
Yeah, one of the concepts I wanted to talk about is sort of from the book Atomic Habits from James Clear, where he talks about just setting step over targets and step over goals. I think that's really important, because to start thinking about, well, I'm at the beginning of my journey and I want to become financially free. So I want to replace my current annual salary. To replace, let's say, an $80,000 to $100,000 salary can feel quite overwhelming. But as you reverse engineer it back to set more step over targets, well, okay, well, what can I control right now? What can I do right at this moment? And that's as simple as one of a few things. You're either saving and then just make that happen automatically. You're paying down debt, which once again, you make that happen automatically. Technology is beautiful for that. Or you're taking action, you're buying something. And so rather than becoming super overwhelmed about this long-term lofty goal, just take consistent action and set those super easy step over targets where well, if I put $1,000 a month away, then by X date, I'll have my next deposit and then I'll be able to go and buy a property. Or, hey, I've taken a lot of action like me. I've bought 4 properties in the last 5 years. I need to just slow down and start paying off some debt right now. So I just automatically set up direct debits into my mortgage accounts, into my offset accounts, so that it just happens. And then I can just focus on what matters, just living the happiest life that I possibly can.
100%, man. Like I really completely get where you're coming from there. And like automation and simplifying is a big part of this journey too. Like get a good spreadsheet for your tax stuff. Get everything automated with your property manager. Like, again, these things can be so easy. I really mean this when I say it. I spend less than 2 hours a year, like, managing my entire property business, which I see as a business now. And that's been one of the big things that I've realized, like, whether you're in your own business or working for someone else, the second you become an investor, that is a business that you're running.
Absolutely.
So bring the income into one account, pay all the expenses from the same account, and then you've got a profit and loss, like a business, like an accurate finger on the pulse understanding of where you're at all times. For a lot of my properties for a long time, they lost money every week. So I had to put extra money in that account. Now they're covering themselves. And before the interest rates went up, I had a wicked little passive income going on. So like it's really cool to see this stuff unfold over time, which sort of leads me into my last part.
Yeah.
And that is, invest with fundamentals. You don't have to figure this out on your own. And fundamentals are as simple as buy houses in metro markets, close to the city or the beach, in quiet streets, buy 450 to the biggest piece of land that you possibly can. But I personally like 600 plus when you can afford it, you know, and buy the best pockets of the suburb and the better streets with a bigger house and a nice big backyard for the family in the future. And it isn't harder than that.
It's even harder than that. That's what like 70% of the Australian population wants, is that beautiful family home in a good area with good employment opportunities, good amenities like schools, public transport options, shopping centers, things like that. Like if that's what the majority of the population want, buy that. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, buy what the family wants in the school district that they want to be in. Like, that's it.
And the data shows clearly that that's been the top performing asset. Like 30 years of data, that particular type of property has gone up 453% according to CoreLogic. Whereas if you were to buy a unit in a metro market, that's only gone up 303%. So you're losing out on 140% of capital gains by just buying something that might be a little bit easier in the moment.
Like that, it's just so significant if your brain works like mine and you realize what dollar value that is. Like, it's actually insane. And so the big thing that separates, I suppose, people that are successful investors and people that, you know, aren't really, I suppose, or people that don't get to financial freedom before retirement. And there's many ways. Like, a lot of people we work with are like, I love my job. I want to stick at it until I retire, or I love my business, or I love helping people. I'm never going to stop doing that. So I'm just getting myself to a position where I've got financial peace now and financial security in the future. And then there's other people that are like, if I have to go back for one more day where I'm not working my way out of this, I'm going to like neck myself. Like, I don't mean to be brutal, but we work with people in both situations. And the only thing that separates one from the other is taking action consistently over time. Like, once you've got the vision, once you've got the plan, once you've got the team, once you understand the fundamentals, which are all things that we can educate you on in the first 4 weeks of working with us, then you're in a position where it's like, cool, my base is set and I can choose to build like a residential home on a 6-inch slab, or I can go deep and build like a 3-story skyscraper foundation that is going to take me from where I am to exactly where I want to be in the future. But consistency is the key. Confronting the uncomfortable emotions, the fear. Hey, you're having an off week. I felt anxious before I started recording it. I still pressed record and I'm still doing it. We
show up regardless.
Shit day, good day. It's just a moment in time.
You just need to confront those fears and insecurities that we all suffer from and just move through it anyway. Like, what's the book? Face the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Feel the fear and do it anyway, because like life is going to keep on happening. Time is the only finite resource that we actually have, and it doesn't stop for anyone. So you need to start focusing on addressing all of these things, create the vision, create the plan, understand the fundamentals, build your team of advisors, go out there and take action.
100%.
And, when we look at it, like I do see so much value this year. There's so many good buying opportunities, but there's still all of that fear in the market at the moment, which I get as well. We have had the biggest decline in property prices in recorded history. We've had the sharpest and most significant interest rate rising cycle that we've seen in history, I believe, as well. So all of these things do spike our fears. They do spike our emotions and our cortisol, which generally puts us into that fight or flight mode where we can't make educated decisions, where we can't see the forest for the trees. So you've got to try and figure out, well, how can I? How can I see the forest for the trees? How can I get myself into a position where I feel confident to take action?
Yeah, like one of the first things I say in the session that I do, which is like once someone's came on board with us, is at some point during this journey, you are going to freak out so badly that you won't even recognize yourself. It could be when you pay your deposit. It could be when they take all of your savings out of your bank account. It could be when the equity is released from your home and all of a sudden you're in debt, bigger debt. It could be when you don't find a tenant for the first couple of weeks because you priced the property too high to follow our advice. It could be when your solicitor gives you 30 pages of paperwork and you've never seen it before and you need to call them to talk it through. Like it could be
building a pest report.
Your bank manager or your broker is not ideal. And at some point, like that's going to catch you out and cause stress during the process. Like the building a pest could look shit and you may have to terminate before you find the right one. Or it could just be like for the first time or the second time or the 10th time, you're in a corner that you've chosen to be in, but you don't have any way out of it except to sit in it and go through it. And so it's like, there's so many things that scare us and that's cool. Like we're built to hide in a cave with other people that want to hide in the same cave. And you're trying to create financial freedom in 15 years instead of the normal model, which is work from 15 to 70 effectively. 55 years of work is the normal model. Of course, there's going to be some pain on the journey to success as financially free. And then the last thing I'd say is like success, financial freedom won't make you any happier.
No.
So you might as well work on joy, which is lasting, versus happiness, which is an emotional element, and can, just work your way through it and recognize that like no one's high-fiving you when you pay off your home.
No,
you can't even talk to anyone when you've got $100,000 a year passive income because everyone hates you in Australia. So it's like, figure out a way to do this in a way that makes you feel good all the way through by spending time with your kids, your family, your friends, training, traveling, helping other people, like bringing joy to the world for yourself as well.
I love it, man, so much. And like at the end of the day, there is no secrets. There is no secrets to creating an amazing property portfolio. It's about, creating a vision, creating a plan, understanding the fundamentals, building that team, becoming educated, taking action and dealing with the emotions when they come up, because they will certainly come up at different phases throughout this journey. Some will be great, elation, joy, happiness. Others are going to be fear, anxiety, overwhelm, worried about making a mistake. Like all of those things are going to come up. And, that's why you do have to be quite headstrong if you want to become a property investor, if you want to become financially free, because speeding it up by 30 years is quick. To go from 55 to 15 years and financially free, you're speeding the journey up by 30 years. There's got to be some sort of payment for that.
100%. And if you've got a strong enough vision or why that's clear and that's pulling you through, and you've got a plan that will make it happen, they take 99%. Like when I talk to people, and I think back to this Oprah thing I mentioned before, like just, know what you want. Like when I ask people, like, what do you want? 99.99% of people that I talk to in the business or outside of it can't answer it on the spot.
No, or it's very surface. I want to buy one property. I want to buy 3 properties.
It's why.
There's no why.
And so it's like if you know what that looks like and you know how to get there, then like that creates some certainty and some structure for you, which also protects you from the emotions, because there's a logical reason. Like I do struggle from anxiety, and one of the things that my psychologist has done, which I do regularly, is like, your brain is always playing this trick on you that like you're not good enough or it won't be enough or that this is the wrong thing to do or it's scary right now and you don't want to get your head cut off from the tribe or you step out of that cave when there's a fire outside. But the exercise that he's got me to do, which is the reverse of what our brain does, and that's why it's an exercise. Our brain just wants to take us down the hole, hook onto these 10 different ideas, plus who you were as a kid, plus a mistake you made at 20 to do, like to be there, versus like, well, what are the reasons why this is working out for me? Like, and I jot them down as like, what, you know, when I'm freaking out about buying my next property, it's like, well, what are the reasons to buy this property? Why am I doing it? What are the reasons to support that this is a good decision? And I start listing that it is a house in a metro market. The market is down by 10 to 15% right now. I have unused cash in the bank in an inflationary market where I'm losing 7 to 10% of the value of my money right now. It's like that's, and it starts to create like 30 or 40 reasons why. And what it's doing is pulling you out of survival brain and into the frontal cortex where you can be more conscious, present, and make logical decisions. And it's like the trap is to just keep moving into that space where you like know where it is that you want to be and you've got the tools in the moment to enjoy it and get there as well.
Yeah, I've never heard that analogy, hey, but that's an amazing one to just focus on because we all catastrophize and focus on the negatives, which you do need to. You need to understand like your worst case scenario, but you also want to look at what's your best case scenario. Yeah. What if it all works out and things happen for me? Then you can really change your life. You can change your future for yourself, for your family, for your kids, your grandkids, maybe even your great grandkids.
Plan A is make more passive income, work less, and create the life that you want and become the best version of yourself on this planet. Plan B is it's not working out, sell it all, like start again. Like the thing about property is like, because it generally does go up in value in about a 5 to 10 year period of time, worst case, you're freaking out. Like one of our good mates is freaking out right now. He's selling his property. He's getting his full deposit back plus, and he bought it like 9 months ago.
Yeah.
Like you can get out clean most of the time unless you bought at a really dangerous stage. So yeah, I hope you guys have got a bit out of this video or potty today. Like I sort of have. Sometimes just reaffirming these things are important for us as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, we're still on this journey ourselves, working towards financial freedom, buying properties, doing projects, and just bringing it to you in real time. And it's really nice to sort of expand on this. And I love like, you know, everything that you've been through to sort of make it a little bit easier for us folks at the earlier stages of their journey at the moment. But yeah, just wish everybody the absolute best and happiness and joy along this journey. And, you know, obviously if it feels like the right time, start developing that vision, start putting that plan in place and see what's next for you.
Woo! That's a wrap. That's a wrap. Have a spin. Yeah. Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. That's so nice. Oh.